So I am super excited about this panel because we have on stage 4 women who have changed the industry with their thought leadership and the way that they have created forums, groups, places for property managers and homeowners to interact and learn from each other and network, and has really elevated the professionalism in the industry. So what I'm going to do first is let you guys introduce yourselves and talk about your platform a little bit, and then we'll come back and ask questions about what it takes to become an influencer or a thought leader. So, Annie?
All right, I hope, is this on? Is it on? Can you hear me? Okay. So my name is Ani Switzer. It's written like Annie. My family's Armenian. I'm not being weird. So my name's Ani Switzer.
I really didn't know that.
Yeah, it's okay.
I've been calling you Annie for like a while.
I go with either. You mostly knew me online until we met
Right,
a few days
true.
ago. So I'm Ani Switzer, and I'm a vacation rental owner. I've been in the vacation rental business since 2006. Before that, I was an actuary. I don't know if you guys can Google what that is. I was a retirement plans actuary. I was a math major. I'm a math girl. I always will be. And I look at that side of my VR business. I run it that way. So anyway, I was in consulting. I worked for Mercer for 10 years, but I'm a full-time VR owner and a self-manager. And like I said, been doing that since 2006. I have 3 properties currently in coastal Delaware and coastal Virginia, looking to expand. The disruption in the industry with Expedia's acquisition of HomeAway changed my plans. I was about to put an offer on a 4th property in cash when the service fee happened. So that's a good segue into that kind of disrupted my life. And so I co-founded a group called Say No to VRBO Service Fee with April Salter in Tallahassee, who she couldn't be here because she's got a lot on her plate, but she's a VR owner with 8 properties in Mexico Beach. And we didn't know where we were going
Mexico
with
Beach,
this.
which got nailed by the last hurricane, so she's been in a very different place lately.
One of her places was completely wiped out, and she's full-time runs a PR business, Salter Mitchell. So anyway, when we got together, at that point, we thought we would try to bring about, have a voice, be able to communicate. We thought we could effect some change and get rid of the service fee. Clearly, that's not where we're at. That's not going to happen. But it's evolved. We didn't know where we were going, but what it has turned into is we have broken 6,000 members in our group. We have over 6,000 individual property owners, small managers, large managers in our group. And it's become a platform where we strategize, compare OTAs, exchange stories, report changes, share how we are responding to changes, and then day-to-day stuff like we get like, what kind of camera is the best camera to put on the outside of my property? What type of sheets do you buy? So anything VR related goes in our group. We label with topics. We use the search function. It is 67% female, and that's what I do. That's why I'm here. And at some point, I became an influencer. I didn't know I was going to. I was just a VR owner, minding my own business. And but anyway, it's turned into a thing. So here I am.
Tell us about Host to Host.
Wow. Well, first I want to say thank you, Amy. What a wonderful, wonderful conference. And it is so awesome to see all you women and the odd man here in there. Very cool. The odd husband, yes. My main squeeze is here. So my name is Debi Hertert, and I also am a vacation rental owner. We probably are. I mean, most of us got into this business kind of accidentally, and Rob and I live in Portland, Oregon. And we realized that well, if I back up a little bit, I'm also part of Matt Landau's Inner Circle group, where there's a lot of connection and a lot of cross-education and a lot of sharing going on. And when Airbnb came into Portland, they moved their customer service headquarters into Portland. I wanted to connect with these other hosts that were there because I was so appreciative of all the things that I had learned in the Inner Circle. I wanted to do that locally. You know, Airbnb masks all of that information on the platform, so you can't talk to another host. And I started a meetup group. That was in 2014. The meetup group grew. We had a conference in 2017, and after the conference, we realized that we were hitting a pain point and connecting with people who were really interested in what we were doing. So we then got together. The people who helped me do the conference actually came to me through our podcast. It's so connected, you know? We're all so connected. Anyway, so those people now are my board members, or our board members for Host to Host, and we are a 501c6 trade association for our local hosts with a little over 200 members. And we are advocates in the city as regulations change. We continue to educate. We've had over 55 meetups now. And we have an amazing community. So that's Host to Host.
So I'm Heather Bayer. I'm the host of the Vacation Rental Success podcast, which has nearly now 500,000 downloads. Yay. And reached episode 273 this morning. And I have interviewed everybody on this panel. I've interviewed many of you out there as well. I love the stories. My story started, I'm not going way back to the hypnotherapy, and I can make you act like a chicken.
That was almost a session. We'll do it next time.
We nearly did a hypnotherapy session. I started buying properties in Canada in 1999. I was still living in England at the time. And by the time I'd bought the second or third property, I realized I was beginning to get it right. But I'd made so many mistakes. So I thought, if I'm making mistakes, other people are making mistakes. And in 2003, I just wrote a book. And I suppose, and I self-published it. It was called Renting for Profit. And it did really, really well. And it was picked up by a publisher and republished in 2007. It is still available on Amazon. Please do not buy it. It's full of good stuff, but the marketing section, yeah. I mean, it's it's a little bit embarrassing to me now. You know, why people write books, I don't know, because they get out of date almost immediately. But from the book came the blog that I started in 2005, and then the podcast in 2013. And really, that's where it went. It's continuous sharing of information and just sharing it widely and freely. I'm also the CEO of Cottage Link Rental Management, which is a rental management company in Ontario. We have just under 200 properties.
Thank you. Well done. Hi, I'm Vanessa. Soon I'm going to be considered a serial entrepreneur. I'm on my 5th startup, and because I've been an entrepreneur and a poor one, I've had to find ingenious ways to market my businesses. And the latest one is Rentals United. This is the second one I have in the vacation rental industry. Rentals United is a channel manager. And for the first time, I've gone all the way up to VC rounds now. So my marketing has worked out for me so far. And I'm also the founder of VR Tech Events, which is a meetup where VR tech companies meet property managers, because I understand that property managers find it very confusing, all the technology that's around. And so I bring startups to come and meet PMs, which I think is very useful for their marketing, and on the other side for PMs. I'm also the curator, very proud curator of the Who's Who of the vacation rental world in this 4th edition this year, 2019. I only have 4 copies with me because they're heavy, but you can come and fight for it after the session. Yeah.
That's a great book, too. It really is well done.
Yeah.
It's high quality.
A lot of work.
So VR Tech events, how many people have you seen since you've been doing those, do you think? How many attendees?
I try and keep it small because it's a networking event,
Right.
so I have a limit of 100. They're free events for PMs, for startups as well. I usually get one sponsor that will basically pay for the venue and drinks. Very important. We have to have drinks. And yeah, no, so I limit to 100, and usually we sell out. You know, they're free tickets, but we usually sell out within 24 hours. And I take it round. So we've been to Rome, we've been to Barcelona, all over Europe, and I intend to come to the States. If you guys invite me to your regions, I'll be very happy to introduce some very cool startups to you guys.
How did you build that following for VR tech?
So I think as a whole, I built my following by promoting other startups in our field. Or my blog is not around what we do or channel management, that would be very boring. I write about other startups and how they help us property managers to do our businesses. And as a result, the Who's Who came, as a result, the VR Tech meetup came, and you know, we startups, we're looking to make business, right? And it's very hard for us to gain traction. You know, how do you meet your potential clients? So all of these avenues have you know, kind of allowed me to become fairly famous within the VR tech industry as a whole. I don't think anyone doesn't know my name that is a VR tech startup as such. And as a result, you know, people tweet about me, they talk about me, and as a result, they talk about my business. Yes, because at the end of the day, I'm also doing this to, you know, promote my own business. Right?
But you don't self-promote, and Heather, you don't either. The whole idea of self-promoting, I think, in my mind, watching who's successful and who's not, as an influencer and a thought leader, there seems to be a real dividing line for the people who self-promote when they're building their following, and the people who promote on relevance and content and like really trying to bring something to the table that people don't have. You've done that brilliantly. How do you feel about looking at self-promote, the balance of promoting you versus promoting what you do?
It's an interesting thing because I'm very prolific on Twitter. Twitter's my home. I know other people their home is Instagram or Facebook. My home is Twitter. I've been there since the day. I'm an early adopter. I think I got my account on the day Twitter started. So it's still modest. I still have about 6,500 followers on Twitter, but it's a very good influence platform. But there's one thing I see on Twitter that people do that is wrong, is they're constantly self-promoting. They just talk about their properties or their companies. They don't engage, and it's all about engagement and being open to other people and saying, you know, I've been in this business for 25 years. Come and ask me. I'm completely open, and this is probably why I don't make any money out of this, Amy.
That's a whole nother subject.
It is a whole other topic. Yeah,
I just had a party for 325 of my friends. I get it.
Yeah, one day, people monetize. But yeah, I mean, and I've just done a session on how to start a podcast for as a travel, how to start a travel podcast, and the number one key to success in that is absolutely no self-promotion. You don't tell anybody who you are or what your properties are. You influence them with your knowledge about the subject or the area.
Deb, have you found that to be true for you as well? You don't do a lot of self-promotion at all. You're one of the most humble people I've ever met.
I don't really know how to answer that. I am, the stories that I tell with my podcast are other people's stories. They're not mine. And that's why I do what I do, because everyone has a story.
Right.
And they're always interesting, I mean, to me.
I think Jen Ford is here from Turnkey, and we were just having a conversation about this in the last session, that as women, it's easier for us because this is more natural to not self-promote,
Exactly.
where it may hurt us in finding funding, you know, to run through Focusrite and meet and introduce and all that kind of stuff. But it is kind of really advantageous in this situation. Annie, for you, your platform was developed around a very specific discussion that was going on at a very specific time period.
Right.
And what was your growth level? Like in that once you launched that Say No to VRBO service fees, you went up to what, about 2,500 people pretty quickly, right?
You know, I'd really have to look back. I mean, I feel like we've doubled in the last year. It comes in waves. So what ended up happening was every time there would be some kind of a negative change rolled out, in response, people would Google it, and then we'd come up, and then in the very early days, people were promoting us. They were actually promoting us on VRBO's Facebook page, which, I can see their perspective. They quickly nipped that in the bud. They didn't want a group that was unhappy with the direction they were going with on a particular issue, self-promoting there. So there were owners who were trying to promote us on that page. A lot of them got banned from the page. Understandably, it's a business page. Then people were promoting us in like online Yahoo groups. And then it was like word of mouth where owners would tell their friends, and then we have owners who come in and add a bunch of their friends. But we've never even said to people, go out and recruit. If each owner went and recruited one person, we think about it, doubling. I mean, we're at 6,000. That's a drop in the bucket of the number of vacation rental owners and managers that there are. And, April and I never sat down and said, we want to hit this number. We were just promoting content, trying to help owners. I said in a fairly popular post in our group that this is not our paying gig. I mean, honestly, none of the admins, April and I are co-admins. We have 3 moderators that help us. None of us make any money off of this. That's not the point. We are all vacation rental owners and managers. That is how we make our money. But what ended up happening was these changes were happening. We were trying to respond. We were trying to influence. We were trying to take a stand. And as I was adapting my business, I'd go to the group and I would write to them about, here's the changes I'm making to deal with this disruption. This is how I'm trying to take control of my business, because I'm not willing to just be inventory on someone's shelf. I own these properties, and I have business goals. I have revenue goals. There are certain people, target market of people I want in my properties, and I don't. So we just would post content to try to help the group, and then I think word just got out that we were helpful. We even have Airbnb hosts, people who've never been on VRBO joining our group. We have people who, aren't on any of the OTAs, really, who have private websites joining our group. So it's been an interesting journey. We didn't really know where we were going with it, but we basically started out with, we want to make a difference in the profession. We want to affect some change. We want to help other owners and managers.
Right.
It's true that at the stage that you're at now, if you were to endorse a product or a tech company or a channel, people would follow you.
Yeah, well, we're very, very careful about that. Like in our group, we sometimes get people who want to come in and self-promote, and we nip that in the bud.
But if you were to
If I were to. But I'm careful about that also, because unless...
That's the influence a bit, right?
If it's a product I'm using, I will tell people. But I'm not going to go and shamelessly promote a product, because that also, I think that erodes my trust. Like, it's okay for me to say I'm using it if there's a discussion about a certain thing, like, do you use property management software? I will endorse the one that I use. But I also don't knock, I'm very sensitive about that. I have 2 developers in my group who have equally good software. I'm not going to endorse the one I pick and knock the other one. You know what I mean? Right, and I didn't, okay, yeah, exactly, no. But, so here's the thing. You don't want people, these are people, business owners, they're trying to run a business. We don't want to spam them. If we get requests where we think like someone's going to come in and spam, no, absolutely not. So that's, yeah.
I get it.
There's a balance. There's been people who've been banned for spamming. Yeah.
So your group's on Facebook. Mm-hmm. Heather, you said you're largely on Twitter. You also do a lot with LinkedIn too, as well. I mean, or Mike does for you.
Mike does.
Yes, I have a tech team. My son and my faux son. and they post all over the place, but we actually do also use a company to share our posts across different platforms. I remember the old adage, which was be everywhere. Yeah. If you want to influence, you've got to be everywhere. That's impossible to do on your own.
And it's a different message. I mean, I do Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. I do not do Instagram because I'm just old. And I think that I don't want to learn a new platform. I just don't right now. Anyway, so I think that the message on Twitter, the message on Facebook, and the message on LinkedIn are separate. Yeah. So one of the things I feel like for really positive, effective thought leaders and influencers is that they know what to say on which channel.
That's right.
And you use all 3 too, Vanessa.
I use pretty much everything, but I have completely different strategies per channel.
I do too.
So for Instagram, it's about showing that the real people behind the brand, So it's very much, photos of us in the office, the dog, the office dog, and the people. We are real behind this. On LinkedIn, it's about company news and press releases and, the occasional whoop whoop. We want this preferred partner, etc. And then Twitter, we reshare our content, our blog a lot, so hashtags, etc., which help us rank higher for SEO in search engines. Yeah, so we use it basically to rank higher. And Facebook, I pay because it's impossible. So it's too hard.
Yes, Twitter, I have found, if you want to get, if you want influence over media, that is the place to be. And you go and you just subscribe to every travel media list there is, and then you engage with them. And I've had calls from newspapers, from TV channels, and I've done interviews and contributed to articles simply because I made myself known to a journalist. So it's not just a matter of Harrow, if you're into HARO and help a reporter out links every day, that's one thing. But to actually physically go out and search for those journalists who are writing about us, that's how you get that influence out.
Excuse me. Talk amongst yourselves. I've got the New Orleans flu from last night. I think that LinkedIn, I've always been a little bit amazed that property management companies haven't utilized LinkedIn for the B2B side of the business, their B to owner, the business to owner side, because a lot of the homeowners that own multi-million-dollar homes are on LinkedIn. And it's a great way to promote some property, on the business side of the relationship there. And Deb, really, what would you advise if someone were trying to build a thought leadership position in their market? Like, let's say I want to be the thought leader or the influencer in Gulf Shores or Orange Beach, Alabama, or Bend, Oregon. What would you do?
It would depend on who I was trying to reach, right? So for me, I'm interested in connecting with the owners. So what we did before was we started our meetups. And in that way, we have face-to-face, we establish trust, we share information, we promote among our small groups, and then that expands and expands and expands. And at some point, something else may come out of it. Like, we had a really fantastic meetup that was called Sex, Drugs, Rock and Roll. And somebody said, we should have a Facebook page. And that Facebook page now has about 1,500 people in it. So,
wow.
It's the conversations are important. The conversations that are on Say No to VRBO are also important. And people want to connect with each other. And then at some point, if you want to go into a different level, you've already got that space. And so when we started having regulatory issues, we already had the trust. So we could get the people together and motivate them to get downtown to the mayor's office and, make some changes in our regulation. I don't know if that answered your question.
It does, but I know, Heather, you covered this a little bit in your last one, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, because I was looking at Facebook groups, and because I've been thinking about location-based podcasts, but also looking at location-based Facebook groups. And this is how Annie started, by starting a group, and people love these groups. So the Orange Beach Gulf Shores Facebook group, there's nearly 1,000. There's nearly 1,000 members of that group, but there is no Orange Beach Gulf Shores podcast. So there is an opening there for somebody to do that. So I think it's a matter of, if you're thinking about how you become an influencer, it's look to see who's already out there doing it. Are they doing it well? Because if you can do it better, do it better. If you can do something with a little twist on it, do something different. So if there's a Facebook group, you might want to start a podcast. You might want to start a blog. If there's already a podcast, is there a Facebook group? Just think laterally about where your audience is coming to find their information. Because if you can give this information to them consistently and in a very professional way over time, you will become an influencer. It's as simple as that.
Does anyone have a question for this group? Yeah, Annie. Yay. Yeah.
Okay, so I have an idea, and this is really far-fetched, and it came as a result of just having gone through a painful experience of losing about 40 of our houses to a ban initiative that the Chamber of Commerce supported against us, as well as the hotels. And one of the things that I'm noticing in our industry is that the hotels are threatened by the vacation rentals. And so I would love to somehow, in my lifetime, because I used to own an inn for 20 years, and when I started it, found out that the bed and breakfast, they were all in competition. So I want to somehow bring us all together under hospitality, because I think there's room for all. Yes. So does anyone have ideas on how?
I can actually speak to that, because as we found that our regulations were changing and we needed to be back down into City Hall talking with people about what we wanted as hosts. So we didn't want to be representing the platform. We wanted them to see us as tax-paying citizens in the area. So we wanted to be able to influence their decisions. And as a result, the city council people were looking at us going, holy cow, we didn't know you guys were there. How come we haven't heard from you before? And one of the council members says, you guys need to be on our tourism board. And so now we have a seat, one of our members is on our tourism board. So she is there educating. Part of the tourism board is a mandatory representative of 12 hotels, and then there's other people within the community that are there. But she's educating them about who we are. They have no idea. And so as they learn who we are and what we do, they're gradually, hopefully, going to understand we're really not a threat, and that we can work together.
So that we were kicked off the board. Yeah.
Oh.
However, we have freedom. Yeah, we were actually, I was on the news, like outraged, they took us off. Because the hotelers are. But anyway, I am on the hospitality board, I'm an ambassador, so they're trying to kick us off too. So.
I don't know how it works in the States, but in Europe we have associations. We create associations, and there's tons in Barcelona. I think there's about 10
I was going to say,
associations.
Blue Ridge, Georgia, got together and they did one that was every lodging provider. It had nothing to do with the chamber, nothing to do with the CVB. And they got together to do an event, actually, for like blues and barbecue or something, to fill in an off weekend. So they got together with the hoteliers in the area, with the property managers, completely outside of anything structured. And they all got to know each other there, and then began to get a lot closer in that way. It was kind of a strategic way to kind of join forces as lodging providers. And I think I don't know what it's called right now. I think it's called the Blue Ridge Lodging Association. The Blue Ridge Lodging Association, I think is what it is. But I can put you in contact with some of those guys who put that together. It was really interesting. Do you want to have another question? Deborah.
So you said, so Airbnb doesn't allow you to get in touch with any other hosts. So you created a meetup group.
Correct.
How did you get the meetup group in front of the host space? How did they start?
That was organic. So, meetup.com. So we went to meetup.com, right? And created the group there. And then our first meeting, we had Rob and me and 2 other hosts. And now it's, I'm kicking people off. Because so it's over 300, but we've merged now with host to host. So wow. it just gradually grows. And meetup.com, if you go to any of their meetups, you've got an account with them, and they will start sending you notices of new meetups that are starting in the area. So
I started with cold calling people.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Did you really?
My Viatech meetup, yes, PMs in Barcelona. Cold calling, say I'm doing a meetup, come.
How would you know who to call?
Well, I'm a marketer.
She's got a list.
So that's what we couldn't get because
Yeah.
because Airbnb masks
Well,
that information.
I mean, I can give you a few tricks.
Do it. I'd love to hear.
And that email didn't work because I emailed Barcelona managers and I didn't get good response at all. So
Phone works for us. Yeah, it's an invite. People like to.
yeah.
Yeah, tincture of time, Deb, and labor of love.
And find a need.
Yes.
Like when there's something like your need, there was a very specific thing that came up, and once you can find that one thing that you know something about, you can capitalize on that pretty easily. Is there another question for the panel?
Oh, my question was similar. It was about influencing government regulations. I feel like if women were more the voice of our industry, especially as corporate leaders of big property management companies, that we would have, we'd still maybe have issues with government regulations, but they would be different. And I'd like to see more women being influencers with local municipalities, states, government regulations.
And there are a few of us now who are willing to travel to help other communities organize. Megan McRae is doing that, and I am just about ready to do that too, and to talk to, because right now there are pockets of areas all across the country who are wanting to create an organization to help them be able to confront these issues when they come up. And Asheville, North Carolina is another one that I just heard from recently. So anyway, if you have an interest, we'd be happy to help you.
I've created two.
She's on it.
I'm in Seattle.
Yeah.
I just had a quick question about meeting people. So when you're first starting these groups out and you're obviously putting out content that's important to you because you assume there are other people that also find that valuable.
True.
But I'm finding that the more that I'm attending conferences, the more conversations I'm having with people, the more points of interest I find that I'm like, oh, I should write about that. That's something interesting to me. So can you talk a little bit about how much you actually went out to engage with people and what you found valuable in that, what events you found valuable, where you went, what, did you go to things other than like the big conventions to talk to people?
To other meetups? Lots of meetups.
I guess that's what I'm asking. Is like,
Yes.
We all know the big 5 conferences and everything.
Yes.
Were there other things?
Although there's more now, huh? There's more coming up. Yeah, so I spend money on them. So, those lanyards, aren't they beautiful, by the way? Yeah, no, and not just VR. I also now go to hotel conferences. Yeah, because I'm very curious to see. I think we're following in their footsteps in terms of technology, etc. So, and I don't want to make the same mistakes as them. So, I go there and I want to find out how they deal with things, the kind of language that they have, the kind of challenges that they have, and I try and talk there too to make them feel like, we are a cool industry. We're not just, places without safety, and we're serious people. We're professionals too, which they don't see. So yeah, hotels and any meetup, obviously because I'm a marketer, I go to marketing meetups. Anything to meet people really, and then travel is big, right? I mean, you can meet airlines, technology people, and and we all have something to share, which is travel.
I like the adjacent conference idea. I started doing some of that too. We have there's a direct booking summit, for instance, that the hotels put on, and there are a few vacation rental people going there. It's super interesting. Same thing. It's small hoteliers, independent hoteliers trying to figure out how to avoid OTAs. I'm like, well, that sounds familiar. I do think that I was going to ask you this. What kind of responsibility, especially like Heather, you've got a large, podcast audience. You've got a lot of people on there that you can't control what they say. I mean, what kind of responsibility do you feel to your audience to deliver a certain level or
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. And I got into trouble about 6-8 months ago. And I interviewed somebody, and it felt like, because I get very enthusiastic about everybody I'm interviewing. I love them all. And this person did not deliver. When somebody, after the episode, somebody went to them, bought their product, and it was an Airbnb related product, and it taught me a lot of lessons about responsibility because they did not deliver. And the feedback I got was that because I'd had this person on the show, that was an endorsement. And I have since been incredibly careful and do a lot of background work. The thing is, in this industry, and certainly in the sort of, I don't know, guru field, in Airbnb, there's a gazillion of them now.
Well,
You know,
now
they-
it's like the get rich quick thing on
Oh,
YouTube.
yes,
Have you seen
yeah.
this? Yeah.
You know, I've
It's like,
rented my place for 6
buy an
months.
Airbnb, make $150,000.
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely. And I get these messages asking me if, I'd love to be on your show, and I've got this ebook, and I've got this course, and people can spend $199 or $599 and learn how to make $100,000. And I'm now, I always have been very wary. I really research people before I have them on the show and talk to them. And, I need to do I think we all need to do due diligence, because as influencers, and this is the same, if you're talking about your location, you don't just list absolutely every restaurant in the area, because once you become an influencer, somebody's going to go somewhere and go, hey, you recommended it, and it was not good. So you've got to experience just about everything, or at least do due diligence on it.
Annie, you've got a fairly contentious audience sometimes. What kind of responsibility do you feel on how they interact with each other?
Okay, so I do feel, one of the things we do is we vet people as they come into the group. And I think, as I mentioned in one of the other earlier discussions we had, that sometimes there's people who are coming into the group with just one sole agenda. They have a product, and they want to put their product in front of 6,000 people. And what's really annoying is there might be a post about something that is completely unrelated to their product, and they will start spamming everyone. So we try to nip that in the bud, and we get them to agree to non-solicitation. Now, the other thing of it is I'm really careful about what I endorse. I want to only endorse things that I use. So I do feel a responsibility to that degree. And also, if somebody posts something that is either on one end of the spectrum or the other, I feel a responsibility to kind of explain both sides and across the middle, and that there are gray areas. Because you can imagine with a group called Say No to VRBO Service Fee, some people come in and their experience used to be maybe up here with that particular site. But I don't want to pick on that particular site, but even other sites, somebody's experience might be up here and somebody else's experience is down here. And somebody might have been up here and fell down here. And when they come into our group, they're very negative, and their business has been destroyed, and they're very upset. And when somebody makes a very negative post, I try to clarify if they're saying things that are not okay. But sometimes the people on the other side don't see me making that comment and might think that I'm anti-VRBO. But then if somebody says something pro-VRBO and I allow it to stand, somebody's like, well, why are you letting, this group is about becoming independent. Why are you letting people
There's
post
no
this
winning.
stuff? This isn't a
No,
Verbo
I
love
totally
group.
agree.
Why don't you ban them?
Yeah.
And I was like, we have free speech here. You can love, you can hate, you can use, you can not use. As long as you're not disrespectful and you're not spreading a lot of misinformation, I'm cool with that, and that's the responsibility I feel is, it's almost like being a journalist, and I'm not a journalism, and I'm a math person, so you can imagine that's like night and day to me. I would have never majored in journalism, but you don't want it to be like I'm representing one side of the story or the other side of a story, and that's biased. You want it to be information. I like facts, I like information. I'm okay with people posting opinions, but I like to base my opinions on fact. And there's this thing in Facebook now. I don't know if you all run groups in Facebook. They have these badges, other than the admin badge and the moderator badge. They have these other badges called like Conversation Starter and Visual Thinker. And so anyone who starts a post, I see Jennifer Spencer in the back. She had a Conversation Starter badge at one point. They come and go depending on how active you are in the group. I have that badge. I have the admin badge. I also have the Visual Thinker, Visual Storyteller badge. And that is, the reason I have that is I like to post screenshots, snapshots, exhibits. So, it's not just I'm spouting off my opinion. I like to show you something that I saw. here are the numbers behind it. Like I had a post where I compared the fees on, VRBO and TripAdvisor. And then I was gonna, for my property for the same week, whatever. Like I try to base it in fact, and I like to show people. So that's kind of like the responsibility that I feel. And I have a lot of people that come and ask me questions privately. They're embarrassed to ask in the group, or they feel like they're gonna get beat up for asking. So I get a lot of private messages. I try to respond to those. But I also kind of, if something gets asked offline a lot, I might post about it, so.
I think that one of the things that I've appreciated that all four of you have done really well is you found your expertise and capitalized on where you fit in the ecosystem of everything, and really kind of went from a place of relevance, expertise, comfort in who you are, just from that. And I think if I were doing this on a property management level, there are some things, like I like data. I like to post data. I like to talk about data. I like to talk about when companies are opening and closing and stuff like that. So if I were in a market, any data I had, I would try to be that expert person. If you were into pet-friendly travel, that would be something, a different way to go. If it's a family thing and you're focused on parenting and parenting vacations, on the charity side and the social awareness side, there's a whole nother market there now in vacation rentals that's emerging pretty quickly. Have any of you guys done anything special like that that's been kind of using your own expertise in the audience to develop some thought leadership? And you guys got work to do. I think that there's so much in every market right now in the major traditional vacation rental markets. I believe there are huge opportunities to do this. I know you addressed this have you done your podcast thing yet?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And this is a massive opportunity. Travel is so underserved in podcasting. The opportunity to create a location-based podcast and become the voice of your location.
Voice, yeah.
The voice of your location is massive. It's so. There's 48 million people in America listen to a podcast every single week. I rest my case.
Would you listen to a podcast, like you want to travel to Paris? You'd go and subscribe to a Paris podcast?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you? Okay.
Yeah, there is. If you want to have a look at an example, there's one called Hawaii Vacation Connection. And this guy delivers 15, 20-minute snippets on things like best gifts to take home from Hawaii.
Right.
The road trips to take, how to travel from island to island. And they're very short, but if somebody's going to Hawaii, they want this information, they can go through the whole back catalogue of all this stuff.
I think right now you could do a podcast just for homeowners in Panama City.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's just what homeowners need to know. You've done this in Portland. You've got 300 people coming to your to your meetups. It's totally doable. And there aren't even that many vacation rentals in Portland compared to some of these other destinations.
We can't have vacation rentals.
Right, exactly. I'm sorry, they're illegal.
There's another
But anyway.
podcast, Heather, too, that is on Disney World, and it's just on Disney World.
Yeah, there are. That is when I say it's underserved.
Yeah.
Orlando is the only place that is not underserved. But if you're in Orlando, there are still niches there that are available. You
All right,
just
yeah.
Google. I just Google podcast and your location. Podcast Gulf Shores, which I've done, and podcast Orange Beach. Nothing.
Thank you guys so much for being here. Let's go to lunch.
Thank you,
Have fun.
Amy.
I appreciate it.